Welcome to this week's meeting of the Rockland Board of Selectmen, coming to you live on WRPS from the H. Bernard Monahan Memorial Room at Rockland Town Hall. On the agenda this evening, we've got Rockland Restaurant Week, a Community Development Block Grant hearing, and a Union Point update. And here's the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ed Kimball.
Good evening. Would you all please rise and join us for Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Ryan, would you be so kind? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I apologize. Could we have a stand for a moment of silence for Ron Everett, former police officer in Rockland? Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It will also be available for online video-on-demand viewing at WRPSRockland.com within 24 hours of its conclusion, as are other recently recorded meeting and community events. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. With that, item number 1, community announcements. I don't believe we have any tonight. Item number 2, minutes, open session minutes of January 2nd, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? It's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Item number 3, open session minutes of January 16th, 2018.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
One
It's
abstention.
unanimous. 4 and 1 abstention. Okay, under agenda items, we have item number 4, Themis Pizza, pledge of liquor license. Mr. Chalker?
We have someone here on behalf of Themis. Would you step up to the microphone and identify yourself, please? Thank you.
Brenda Casares.
And you are,
I'm the owner.
here for?
To pledge the, I'm sorry, first time. Pledge the liquor license to Abington Bank and a refinance with the bank.
For that parcel? For
Yes.
the current parcel?
Yes.
Any questions from the board?
No, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank
Unanimous
you.
vote. Thank you.
That was that.
Good neighbors.
Okay, item number 5, Rockland 2018 Restaurant Week for our, we're 144 years old. Birthday.
Mr. Selectman O'Loughlin is spearheading this project. I'll defer to him.
So I'm sure everybody's aware of the Reimagine Rockland work group that we've put together. It really came out of the 40R effort from last spring's town meeting. So one of our goals, we have 5 subcommittees. I'm the co-chair of the business subcommittee. Our long-term goal of that subcommittee is to try to attract new businesses and new developers to the town. But our short-term goal, one of our short-term goals, is to help support the existing businesses in town currently. So, looking around town, we have a lot of restaurants. We hear it all the time, how many pizza places we have, but we have a lot of other restaurants as well. So one of our goals, an idea that we came up with, is to do a restaurant week. We're trying to find a week all along. We didn't want to do it Valentine's week because restaurants are typically busy that week. The following week would be school vacation week. We didn't want to run into St. Patrick's Day because they're typically busy then as well. And just by chance, I stumbled across the fact that March 9th is the 144th anniversary of Rockland's incorporation. I figured we missed the first 143 years of celebration. We could start now. The 144th, why not? So with that being said, we came up with the idea to do a restaurant week. Right now, we currently have 22 restaurants participating. Every restaurant of the 22 will have a specials list, a menu special for $20.18 as the price point. It could be anything from appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, or 2 entrees for $20.18, whatever it might be. The restaurants all have their own creative control over their menu. We're going to have a lot of information coming out through the Reimagine Rockland marketing group. It's going to be on the radio, it'll be in print, it'll be social media. I think it's just a great way to celebrate the strong business community that we have in Rockland and the really good restaurants that we have. Just the responses that I've gotten from the restaurants alone, the excitement, thanking us for thinking of them. And again, it just so happens that it's Rockland's 144th birthday, and if we can start this now, we're only a few years away from 150th, so it's something to keep on going with. So that's it.
Thank you, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, which we're probably running a couple minutes early, we have a community development block grant public hearing at 7:15.
Mr. Chairman, if you want, item number 8.
Okay, let's skip that for now. We'll go up to item number 8. Road work, the revolving fund, Mr. Chalker.
In your books is an email that I received from Town Accountant Eric Hart. Highway Superintendent Dave Taylor has been striking a deal with the utility company National Grid to have them pay him to repair the roads instead of having to wait to them and receive the quality work. Sometimes he's not particularly helpful, and it takes kind of the middleman out of it by creating the fund, creating the cost, doing the charge per foot. But we need to create a revolving fund. That money would go into it, and Dave would, Mr. Taylor would then use that funding so that he could do any of this trench or road, any place the road's been broken into. He could do it up to the standards that he wants, and of course, the buck stops here. He then, of course, takes responsibility if somebody says it's not done right. We do go back and forth sometimes with the utilities over whether or not the road's been done to the specifications we should choose, we would like. So instead of getting different contractors in here, Dave's willing to accept the responsibility of getting the roads done. In order to do that, we need to establish a road work revolving fund. Any utility that we use, and not just National Grid, would pay into that and will be responsible for making sure that the roads are to Rockland standards. Requires a vote of the board.
Is it an open-ended affair?
Yes, we're just creating a new revolving fund.
I'll make a
Right.
motion.
Any further discussion, or?
I had a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chalker, is normally under the DPU regulations in regards to roadways and trenches, the contractor who repairs the trench is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep on the trench. So I'm assuming that if National Grid has agreed to pay for these trenches, that we would then be, or our contractor would then be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, and therefore any claims that come in on them would then be our legal responsibility as
I
opposed
think
to...
that part of the problem
Good
is that we've
trench.
had a number of complaints, and this is why Dave's worked out the deal with the utility. We're not always happy with what they think is a good enough job,
No, I understand that, yeah.
so.
That's common across other municipalities as well. I'm just wondering if we're now taking on the responsibility of making those repairs, then we're going to also be responsible, I'm assuming, for any of the, I guess if our contractors may be responsible too for any of the legal liability
I assume
associated with
if
the
we're
trenches.
the ones doing the road work, it would be us that would be responsible for the work that we do.
All right, I'm just saying that's a nice responsibility shifting statute when we do have the utilities who are responsible for those. I understand the complication. I've had to deal with it before. It is problematic. I guess I haven't seen it done this way. So how are we determining the cost of the
Mr.
trench?
Taylor would determine the cost, and
Okay. And
different trenches at different lengths.
okay.
So I'm sure he has a square footage charge.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Well, I think it's great by Dave to strike this deal. This has been a conversation that we've had over and over and over again, back to being on the finance committee with former superintendents about the work being done by outside groups not being at standard. I think that this ensures, one, that the pricing is to our favor. Two, that it's at our standard. I think it's I mean, outside of the determining the liability, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great job by Dave's part.
It means the buck stops here.
Absolutely, it's us. We own it.
So.
Yep.
Well, it gives us total control,
Yes.
which is something we were lacking previously, so. There was a motion, I believe.
Yep.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
I'm going to abstain. Only because I think there's some DPU regulations that need to be looked at in regards to preemption here. I don't know. I mean, I guess we can agree to things that may not be legal, but I'm just concerned about that, so I'd like to look into it further.
This is the town of Rockland, this isn't the city of Quincy.
I'm
The
not,
city of Quincy has 8 million more roads and a hell of a lot more stuff being dug up all the time, where we have usually not more than one project at a time, and it seems like a reasonable deal for
Larry.
the town.
I agree. I just want to take a peek at it first before, it's okay, you guys took your vote, and it has nothing to do with being one city or another town, but I'm just saying that there's been case law in this area. There's a case out of Newton in regards to this that I think needs to be looked at. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe other towns and cities will follow us in the future.
It would be nice.
So we'll try it. If it doesn't work, we can always revisit it. We got like another minute, I think, so.
I think that's slow.
It's slow, it is slow. I get quarter after.
I get 7:14.
I had 7:14, that's why I apologize, that's why I was looking at my phone, because I know that's a
Let's
little bit slow.
introduce Wayne Darrett to those of you who don't know him, and then we'll open the hearing.
There you go.
Wayne, would you step up, please?
Wayne Darrow, Community Opportunities Group, the Town of Rockland's Community Development Block Grant Consultant. We're here tonight to hold a public hearing on the fiscal year 2018 CDBG application. We talked a little bit about this last time I was before the board. Just want to go through some background on the CDBG program. It's been a while since we've submitted an application. That money originates with the federal government at HUD. It comes to Massachusetts through the Department of Housing and Community Development. They establish the procedure for communities such as Rockland, which are not entitlement communities. They're small cities communities and have to compete for this money. They set up the rules of the game to compete for those funds.
Excuse me, Wayne, if you
Sure.
could.
Motion to open the hearing?
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, sorry guys.
All those in favor?
Right.
It's a vote, thank you.
Um,
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Wayne, where you're from, where you grew up?
I think we can get by without that. One of the recent changes made in the program is the Department of Housing and Community Development has created a new LMI score, which is based on a community's percentage of low and moderate income individuals. It's a 10-point scale, and Rockland scores 8 out of 10 on that scale, which puts you in a very, very competitive position for these funds. Well, that's a good thing. CDBG funds are pretty flexible. They can be used for planning work, they can be used for housing work, infrastructure work, social services, ADA compliance. There's a lot of different types of projects that are eligible. But if a project's eligible, it also has to meet a national objective, which means it needs to provide a benefit to a majority of low and moderate income individuals, or it needs to remove or prevent slums and blighting conditions. DHCD also has added some additional rules of its own for certain types of projects, especially public construction projects, which require you to have a certain degree of plans developed in order to apply for certain types of funding. Right now, the town of Rockland doesn't have any current open CDBG grants. The most current grant funding we had was as a joint recipient with the town of Holbrook under fiscal year 2016. That grant is close to being completed from Rockland's point of view. We've got one final housing rehab case to be completed. We've expended our social service money under that grant, which was for fuel assistance. For the 18 program, the one that we're thinking of submitting on March 2nd, the big activity that has been discussed to this point is the housing rehab program. reestablishing that. And one of the reasons we wanted to reestablish the housing rehab program is because in the past, DHCD required us to have a target area within the town to which the expenditure of these funds were limited. They have removed that requirement, so the housing rehab program can now be done on a town-wide basis. In the past, we had a lot of folks come to us for assistance, and we weren't able to help them because they were not located within the target area, or our ability to help them was limited to just emergency situations. So this is going to make the program a lot more available to a lot more people throughout the town, which we think is definitely a good thing for the town of Rockland. We're eligible for up to $800,000, and DHCD has a limit. If you are funded in back-to-back years, you can't get more than a total of $1.35 million. So if we were funded at the maximum for fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19, we'd only be eligible for $550,000. So something to keep in mind, but it would be a nice problem to have. I don't know if folks have any questions about what I've said so far.
Just one, Wayne. Under the housing rehab, can you explain what types of our projects actually are included in the term housing rehab, just so?
Absolutely, that's a good question, Selectman Mullen. The housing rehab program is designed to bring units occupied by low and moderate income households into conformance with local codes. So it can be weatherization projects, it can be roofing, it can be siding, it can be accessibility accommodations for individuals who either need easier access to their home or they might need some accommodation in a bathroom. We can do electrical upgrades and plumbing upgrades, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. The idea behind the housing rehab program is to go into a property and make it a safe and sanitary unit for the foreseeable future for those who occupy that property. And the way this assistance is provided, it can be very beneficial for individuals because it's in the form of what we call a deferred payment loan. What that means is if we, for instance, did $30,000 worth of improvement on your home, what we would do is put a 15-year lien against the property. There are no monthly payments, and there is no interest that accrues on this. It's $30,000, and that's it. If you maintain ownership of that property for 15 years, at the end of the 15 years, the loan is forgiven and becomes a grant to you. If during that 15-year time period you sell the property, it gets paid back to the town, again, without any interest charged. And then that money is there available for the town to basically put back out on the street again as a loan to another low and moderate income household. So it's a great way for someone who can't afford to take out a home equity line of credit because they can't afford the additional monthly payments to be able to make the improvements to their property that will allow them to stay there for the foreseeable future.
Another thing you might want to mention is we've had people in the past where they were in a position to refinance even though they had a previous grant. We would subordinate that again so that it would allow them to go through and do their refinance, but that money, they wouldn't have to pay that back and if they still met the criteria. So
exactly. You know, when folks want to just refinance the amount they owe now and not take out any additional funds just to get the lower rate and lower their monthly payments, then the board has always been accommodating of that request to subordinate to the new first mortgage holder.
Larry?
Eligibility requirements?
You have to be lower moderate income. We're in the Boston metropolitan statistical area. I think the median income, the moderate income limit for a family of 4 in our program is roughly around $72,000 per year. That's gross. That's not after taxes. That includes everything that's work, interest, dividends, unemployment, any sort of regular recurring income, social security, etc. But it's a fairly generous eligibility criteria. And that number fluctuates based on the household size. Obviously, a one-person household would be a lower limit, and a 5 or 6 person household would be a higher limit. And those limits change annually.
Now, if we were successful with it, Wayne, would you go back through the stand-in list And the people who are on the list, would they have first preference? Or are you establishing a new list
We will
of
keep
applicants?
the current waiting list, and anyone who submits an application to our office between now and us learning of a grant award would just be added to that waiting list just on a first-come, first-served basis. And then after that, we can decide if you want to, once we know we have funding, have another open submission period where we could then do a lottery to add those folks to the waiting list. But anyone who's already been in touch with us and has an application on file, their position in the waiting list will be maintained for the new grant.
In the past, these grants have been in our targeted area. One of the big changes is now it's town-wide. Certainly, we run into situations here at Town Hall where people do come in asking if there is any availability, if there is a program, is there anything anyone can do to help them? And when they weren't in the target area, we would have to say no. However, this certainly broadens the scope of this program, and I don't doubt for a second that we'll have ample opportunity to spend the $800,000. We even have some neighborhoods, for example, that are older neighborhoods that can use probably 3 or 4 houses in a row that may now be eligible. So it targets a real need in town.
And the Community Development Office is reaching out to individuals who'd applied from outside the target area in past grants to let them know that we're seeking additional funds, and they should submit a new application to us to maintain their spot on the waiting list.
Additionally, the building inspector is informed that now this is a wider area, so that as he becomes aware of things, because we get complaints about houses, sometimes from neighbors, saying, how can that house be in that situation? This may provide us the opportunity to work with different individuals that we just had no avenue to help before.
Any other questions from the board?
I don't have any, no.
Anybody in the audience have questions?
Make a
Got a lot of
motion to
happy
close the hearing?
faces.
If I can just comment, if that's okay. I want to thank you for being open to, I know we offered some suggestions. I offered some via email, and I want to thank you for being open to those suggestions and integrating them. The town's done a lot in the past year or so to make some motion towards a lot of these parallel motions that kind of fit with the CDBG, just sort of the goals of the program. And I want to thank you for being open to those suggestions and integrating them into the strategy.
Oh, thank
I
you.
know the timing was not great. It was kind of last minute, and I appreciate that.
It's nice to get comments. A lot of times I get no feedback, and I left really just trying to work on my own, so it was nice to have the involvement of both yourself and Selectman Mullen to give me some feedback there and get me going in the right direction with the community development strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second?
All those in favor? That's a unanimous vote. Thank you.
The meeting's been closed. We need a motion to,
Establish a revolving fund?
no,
Oh, no, he's different. Sorry, wrong guy.
motion to approve the application.
A motion to approve the town's proposed FY18 CDBG application.
Second.
All those in favor? It's a unanimous
Wayne,
vote.
do we have to
Thank you.
approve the community development strategy as
That's
well?
the second motion I need, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion also to approve the 2018 to 2020 community development strategy.
All those in favor? That's a unanimous vote too. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, we have the L-Star Union Point update, and we're expecting Kyle Corkum, but he has sent some of his staff to his place. When I met with Kyle last week, he didn't look too good, so I hope he's feeling better.
I won't pass that sentiment on to Kyle.
There you go.
Thank you for the invitation tonight. As you know, Matthew Barry, Division President at L-Star. I'm joined tonight by Tom Berkeley as well, just in case you have some specific questions for Tom. So we're happy to be here to give a progress update. As we'd like to start Any of the progress we've been able to make at Union Point really starts with the partnership with the towns. So we're very thankful to all the work that the board has done. Board of Selectmen of Rockland, for as long as I've been involved with the project, has been great to work with and continues to be really a great advocate for the project. I'd like to thank the SRA board members who are here in the audience. Their commitment to the project, your two Rockland representatives on the board, has been instrumental in a lot of the decisions we've been able to make and the steps forward in the reorganization of that particular board, and that organization has been instrumental to the progress that I can report tonight and all the progress that we'll make going forward. Probably the most evident sign, if you haven't been by the site recently, two things. We were opening the rec complex. So the first of the year, the recreational complex, been talked about for a long while, is now open. Opening in the winter is a little bit more challenging than opening in the spring, but we thought it'd be great to bring to the community the opportunity to play. We have 2 air-supported structures covering 2 fields, and come springtime, all 4 fields will be activated for a great recreational complex. We were able to deliver a large residential complex, started occupying in December of last year. So those 2 completed projects, fairly significant progress. If you stop by our offices, another sign of fairly significant progress for us is the amount of staff that we've added to the team. So as you meet and interact with people, there's a growing number of people that would be available to interact. Tom certainly has been a valuable asset to our team to bring technical expertise to move forward the MEPA process and our advancements in water and sewer and technology. We've added a member to the team locally, Ryan Blackman, who's our Vice President of Advanced Technologies. We'll talk a little bit about what we've been advancing in that front. And we've added 2 people to our team to specifically focus on retail. Ed Diavola and most recently Bill Hamilton. Thank you. That's why Tom's here, he's my memory as well. To the team, specifically to focus on retail and deliver retail. My specialty is mostly in delivering large commercial and residential projects, and retail's quite a specialty. So multiple recent subdivision approvals, both residential and commercial, through the SRA shows progress. If you didn't read about it in the newspaper, fairly major partnerships, both with GE to advance our technology initiatives and sustainability. Their power firm and wing of the company, as well as many of their technology, is really advancing. Great moving forward with a company called Optimus Ride with autonomous vehicles on site, both testing and hopefully for full deployment. And we have several startups on site as well, testing that have come out of technology universities in Boston. We, through the new zoning that we have in hand, as you know, in the first year of ownership, mostly it was about working through the zoning, trying to understand what was possible. When that zoning was approved, we moved quickly into master planning. And so as we're coming up probably 2.5 years old right now, moving to our 3rd, pretty excited about the traction that we have in the marketplace. We've added a lot more staff because we had more opportunities than people to address them, and we've been pretty excited about the site selector community. So if you're not involved in commercial real estate, a lot of how commercial real estate works is through site selectors and commercial brokers. And probably over the last 4 months, we've had the opportunity to be shortlisted. So the process that normally happens for a large corporate client, Fortune 500 client, would be they do all of their research in the background. And so you don't know you've made the list. You don't even get a chance to make or not make the list until you get a letter. We have several of those that we've received in the last 4 months. Those have allowed us to put forward lease proposals with partners to these large corporate tenants. We have some term sheets that have been signed that are moving towards leases, and that kind of velocity really is only possible because of the strength of the Boston marketplace. Being in the Boston MSA is critical, and the zoning that was put forward and voted in by this town. So if you have questions, you want to hear progress about the more technical side, Tom's ready to come up and talk about the process we have with MEPA, what we're doing with water, what we're doing with sewer, and the things that I'm not technically qualified to advance, but Tom is.
Well, thank you, Matt. We have lots of questions, actually. In your books, I had drafted some questions that we can alternate and ask. Some of them from our discussions, so I just put them on paper for everybody. I just want to start that the South Weymouth Naval Air Station closed 20-plus years ago. And after the 2007 Great Recession and failures of previous reuse plans, the state legislation was changed in 2014 to increase economic development opportunities for the 3 surrounding towns for what was called the Southfield Project. L-Star acquired the master developer rights shortly thereafter and changed the name to Union Point to reflect a fresh start. Amazon recently announced selecting Boston onto the shortlist of the HQ2 headquarters, yet Union Point was not included. So our questions start with, and I'll take the first one. What is your viewpoint on progress since your ownership and involvement, meaning L-Star's ownership and involvement?
So certainly the most important thing was the change in zoning. The opportunity that Amazon presented to the world was unique and certainly a different process. They have received more than 283 applications from different municipalities. They narrowed that list down to, I believe it was 28. They will subsequently narrow even further. We think Boston is a desirable location for Amazon. Certainly there's a lot of newspaper reporting, but really what it did for us more than anything else was raise the profile for the project. And so we were able to really crystallize on what the opportunity was and what the opportunity could represent and what the challenges could be. And so really a lot of the time and effort that we put into the Amazon proposal that we prepared and submitted on behalf of and with and in concert with all 3 towns, as well as the SRA board, in a really unique and historic public meeting, which we greatly appreciate, was to better understand what was possible and to take what was possible and articulate it in a package and provide it to Amazon. That didn't just allow us to provide it to Amazon. It is probably the genesis of the 4 site selector requests that we received. And so that free advertising, that kind of effort, that time that we were able to spend both at the state level and here with you and your board, I think was probably advanced the project maybe as much as a year from where we would have been if we had followed our own path. It really kind of focused our attention. So, that project I think has been pretty significant. Beyond that is it's delivering, some of the earlier promises. Certainly there was a promise of recreational facilities that's now been delivered. There's the economic development that we're working on and the progress we're making in solving the balance of the utility needs and better understanding the transportation requirements, I think is all significant progress.
Okay. Deidre, would you like to take the next question?
Yeah, my question is more related to the stockpiling of it's more of an observation than a question. Stockpiling of some of the broken asphalt, the dirt. Can we get erosion and sediment control things put around those, please? It's just with some of the real heavy rains and then the heavy snow melts, that was getting off into some of the waterways, and those were abnormalities, the amount of precipitation and everything, but it would be nice if we could just get some fencing around it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom said absolutely. I would agree. But certainly what you're seeing is that is, more of a sustainable approach to construction. And so we want to and we believe reuse, that all of that is best utilized on site. And so, sometimes sustainable firms talk about it as the stored energy, right? And so the energy it would take for us to take that, haul it off site, put it in a place that's not on site versus creatively, part of one of the initiatives Tom's running is trying to creatively reuse all of that so that there isn't a lot of waste generated from the site, that we are actually being pretty sustainable and very conscious of our impact to the environment.
Yeah, it would just be nice to see it maintained like a yard, you know what I'm saying, like a construction yard. And I get that there's a lot of open space there, but that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
Your turn, Larry.
Wonderful. What do you think the top 5 needs are to get this thing going still? What do we need to advance the project during this economic cycle that we're in?
Yeah, number one is for me to get out there and sign some leases, right? Break ground on some projects. Maybe number two, right? The progress and momentum will breed progress and momentum. Probably the most important thing that we're working on that's more at a kind of local and state level is completing our notice of project change and perfecting the possibility of the project. So right now, we have entitlement, we have zoning, we certainly have all the transportation requirements, and once we perfect the balance of the permitting through the MEPA process, I think then it's really 100% on our shoulders, my shoulders, and we need to continue the progress. We've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Certainly, as you talk about development, large projects of this scale require years of effort. If we reflect back on the ones probably most notable locally, I was at a presentation not too long ago, and the original master plan of the Prudential Center just delivered its final tower last year, right? So I think the Prudential Center has been here for as long as I've been alive. And I know because my dad worked in it, that it's been a symbol of my life. And so to think about that, to think about the Seaport District, the time, effort, energy that went into that, right, to convert it from the mud flats, how long ago did Anthony's Pier foreclose? How long ago do people think about that project? And that, is Boston proper. And so large-scale development projects take large commitments. We've poured the time and effort in, and it's time to start seeing those rewards come back.
So just outside of the, not including the sports domes, are there any developers or any commercial industrial projects that have applied for permits or have expressed interest in going to Union Point at this point?
Yeah, we have a number of subdivisions that have been reviewed and approved that are moving forward.
Non-residential?
Non-residential.
Non-residential.
Yep.
Okay, and what's the plan for the, it looks like you guys have the similar model to what we're trying to do for the 40R, where you have a commercial component on the ground floor of your buildings. I noticed that those are all empty at this time too. Is there a plan for that? I know that's not necessarily on the Rockland side, but I'm just curious, that there's no businesses up there yet, per se.
Right. Yeah, so part of the reason we retained the two people I named earlier to focus on retail was specifically that.
Okay.
Retail is as much an art as it is a science. And so, as we started investigating the properties that you're talking about, we don't own those, right?
Yep.
And so we're actively pursuing an opportunity to either own or be the master tenant for those, so that it can be dovetailed into our full retail strategy.
Okay.
And it is a retail strategy. Mostly the ground floor is delivered as retail. There are a number of parcels where we will be single occupant from ground to the top of the building. Some of that is desired by the specific tenant. Some tenants have intellectual property rights that they're pretty sensitive about. Getting in their buildings is a big deal. Some tenants have the opportunity to do ground floor retail, and so where we locate them on site is really dictated by that. And there's some active, vibrant retail corridors that surround us, and so opening the parkway, enormously important for us to drive traffic through the site. And retailers do a very simple calculation. They put a pin on a map, and they know how many cars drive by your facility and how many people walk within a certain walking distance. And we have 2 people full-time focused on that, a couple of brokers full-time focused on that, and that's our expectation. We'll deliver into those. The most recently opened building already has leases signed.
Okay.
And so we're actively engaged in solving that.
Has there been anybody that's reached out for any kind of commercial development on the Rockland side?
There is.
Okay.
So we pursue prospects everywhere. As we've shared with this board previously, the east end of the parkway is a pretty attractive access point for the project. It's really the easiest way on and off Route 3. And a lot of the entities that we're targeting, their employees live here. Part of the strategy we have is to try to give people back 2 hours of their life. And a lot of businesses are interested in that, and some businesses who have businesses know exactly where their employees live, and they pick where they want to go based on that. I know we're working closely with the Joint Waterworks to try to solve both, for the water, so that as we have businesses that want to be located in Rockland, we can answer yes, and we can deliver a facility to them without any hesitation. So if you have a prospect and they come in and your answer for something as fundamental as water and sewer is no, then you have to relocate that to another location. So I know we're actively engaged with the Joint Waterworks to make sure that there's a solution in place that allows me to be out saying yes. I can assure you today, if someone says they want to be located in Rockland, my answer is yes. Okay. And I'm hopeful we can come together and come up with a solution that makes that the appropriate answer.
I can follow up on that. Like I guess like one of my questions like earlier was in terms of the site selection like opportunity process you have now, where you mentioned the four like you've been contacted by 4 firms or 4 site selectors.
Yep.
My first question was how were like any of those in Rockland, but then like you might have answered the question in terms of like us being limited in like in water and sewer. Like, and I guess my question is like I know you're like you've been working with the Abington and Rockland Joint Waterworks, but like is there anything we can do, I guess, to jumpstart development on the Rockland side? I mean, like, were any of those firms interested in any Rockland property? And if not, you know, how can we, like, I think as a board, help to, like, facilitate, you know, like a partnership with the waterworks, and also more long-term, I think, like, how can we help advance things with the MWRA as well? Because, like, in my view, the Joint Waterworks is only like a short-term kind of solution, and you know, really the long-term solution where we can market and really build out the whole project will rely on the MWRA, and I guess, and I've always viewed that as the really like the linchpin of the whole project, I guess. And
right.
And how can we help you, I guess, move the ball forward on that?
You know, tonight I don't have any specific asks. I think the board's been doing an amazing job of advancing everything we need. As we have specific commercial tenants, we may reach out to board members or to your town manager to participate in site tours. And when I talk about 4 site selectors, that's not our full pipeline of projects. I was just using an example of where we were chosen without even being involved. We have full-time staff and commercial brokers working full-time for us to pursue commercial opportunities. So every opportunity that comes into the Boston marketplace, whether it's homegrown or from outside of the market or international, we get a look at. And so, you know, we appreciate the efforts with the MassWorks grant, but certainly, you know, we are helpful. We are ready, willing, and able to move forward with the Joint Waterworks absent a grant and ensure that the appropriate answer for an opportunity in Rockland is yes. We can proceed. We have the land. We have the utilities. We have the infrastructure, and we can proceed. And so that is the way we answer today, because we're confident, based on the study that was completed last year, that we can execute on that. And so I don't have a specific ask for tonight, but you know,
so
I appreciate the offer.
And like I guess like the path forward to the to infrastructure and to the MWA, what does that look like? What does that entail? I mean, I know there were probably like a ton of our negotiations happening as we speak, but like I mean, like, and you probably don't want to divulge those, but and what does the path forward look like, so we know, and you know what the end, where the end result might be, so we can actually begin looking at having the infrastructure to having some of the development in Rockland.
So with the MWRA has been re-verified for us as recently as last week or the week before. They have ample water supplies, and they are ready, willing, able to deliver the water to us. We have researched dozens of routes, and you know, I will talk at this level. If you want tons of detail, I will bring the encyclopedia up to the microphone to answer for this. But you know, we are narrowing our focus down to one route. We have done what the engineers call windshield tours. So we've driven the streets. We spent time with the affected DPW departments to ensure that we're routing these pipes through streets that haven't been recently paved, so that we're not tearing up roads to only put them back in, right? I heard the conversation earlier, so tearing up recently paved roads is unwise. And it is also tied into our notice of project change. And so to complete our water agreement with the MWRA, we need to complete our notice of project change and environmental impact report with MEPA. And that process is ongoing and should take a large step forward later this spring. As you know, we submitted last year. We got the review back. We have some 15 consultants actively engaged in answering what was the requirements so that we can be prepared and properly answer those questions for MEPA. And when those answers are known, we will submit our draft EIR or supplemental EIR. And that will become, obviously, to this board and to the town for review. And then we will be able to move forward. But we are confident in our ability to build and deliver and connect to the MWRA.
Let's go back to a statement you made about attracting businesses and how the footprint that they use as far as, you know, traffic studies. Who drives by there, who walks through there. I guess it's a two-part question, three-part question. Has there been a traffic study conducted? Has it been shared in the commercial development community? And if so, when can we see the results of the traffic study?
Yeah, so we have multiple traffic studies. We have an ongoing traffic study. What we deliver is to the commercial marketplace is projections. So we, once we sign confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements with prospects, they have a window into confidential information. That confidential information is delivered based on what we call pipeline projects, so things we have under agreement and under control that intend to be delivered in a certain calendar year. And so any commercial prospect wants to know if I'm opening in 2019 or 2020, who are my neighbors and who will be there. And we're able to disclose that information once we have a confidentiality agreement signed. So we don't publicly disclose that information, but we do have some traffic studies. Some are completed by state engineers, and all of which we'd be happy to share with your staff here to the extent that you'd like to see them.
Sure.
On that note, I know that I asked probably as much as 2 months ago for the traffic studies we were promised, because there were people around VFW and North Union Street and down at the East West Parkway, and primarily the Rockland area.
Yep.
I'm anxiously awaiting that request to be filled, so.
Yeah, I know we have the raw data. When do we think our traffic engineer would have
So
it?
if I ever make my way, no,
Come to the microphone.
He's been threatening, so you might as well.
Happy to, I'll get Howard Stein Hudson, our traffic engineer. They're actually updating as we speak, so it should be done in the next few weeks. Happy to provide it to whomever requested. So I'll make sure before I leave tonight, if I never make it to the microphone, that you and I connect and make sure you get it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, you went up?
I was just going to say, in addition to water, let's talk sewer. So I'm assuming that's part of your EIR.
You're gonna make it to the microphone, my friend.
I'm assuming because your plan last time you were here was to treat all your sewer on site and do some reuse. So I'm assuming that's going to, I mean, MWRA is going to want to know where your sewage is going, you know, before they give you access to the water. So is that going to all be part of your EIR? Is that when we're going to see that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I would imagine that prior to us even filing that, we're going to be back in front of you with an update.
Okay.
Yeah. We're probably about 30 to 45 days away from all of our consultants providing to us a technical decision memo. So as Matt mentioned, they've been off and they've done a whole bunch of research. They come back, they provide us enough information so we can decide on what actually goes into our draft SEIR. I think at that point it would be prudent for us to come before you. We'll have a little bit more information as opposed to saying we're sort of waiting on that. So we'll have that information. I think that's probably a perfect time for us to give you probably a technical update. Maybe I'll get the microphone.
You're doing a great job from there.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is, I know obviously when a lot of people talk about the cars, what's going to happen to the cars? I hear that every day from somebody in the town, and then, again, it's not, I'm just
It's
wanting you to
wide
say it
open
because...
spaces, come drive, all the public roads are open to anyone who wants to drive them.
No, I just, I'm not saying that, but,
Yeah,
those
so
are questions we get
there's a couple
frequently
of
asked
cars
because of
parked on
people,
site.
they see something,
Yep, I mean, there is a permit that's been issued, there's a lease that's been shared, and so they continue to comply with both, as far as I know. We spent a lot of time working on the fences with them. The wind and the weather over the winter has been a bit more challenging than we thought, but you know, they had a year lease, they had certain extension rights beyond that, and then, you know, the ultimate disposition, I do not know what will happen with those vehicles, but.
Okay, so they're going to be there until whoever the owner is gets a way to dispose of them?
When their lease expires, they'll move along.
Okay, that's fine, I just have something to say, you know, people, just like I said, they ask me those type of questions every day, what's going to happen with that stuff?
Yeah, we were going to make the logo so you could see it as you're landing in Logan,
There you
but
go.
that would be a creative use of them as well, to drive them around a little bit. But we also have on site, you know, as you know, in controlled driver training, so I know they've reached out. Hopefully they've been talking with that continued, you know, driver training. It's accident avoidance, which is critically important. So, you know, we try our best. We film movies. I got another interest today in use of the Boylston set and backlot sets we bought last year. So a couple more of those coming as well. So, you know, we try to utilize you know, whatever we can to continue to bring progress, revenue, and excitement to the project. And so all of those are just natural resources to be used.
Probably my last question. Construction's already started on Route 18 roadway. Any timeline for Hingham Street? Any plans for Hingham Street in Rockland or Route 3? Any plans drafted
You know,
for that?
what do we call the east side improvements?
Yeah, actually, I mentioned Howard Stein, Hudson Our Traffic.
Yeah.
We met with them a couple months ago and basically put that on their plate to do an analysis.
Sure.
I just talked to them yesterday. What they're doing is putting together sort of a laundry list of steps required to improve that, because as you probably know, there've been a lot of discussions that from exit 14, Route 3 to the Rockland entrance, improvements need to be made. It's understanding what we need to do and then reaching out to Mass DOT and exactly what needs to happen. So we should have an update, as I mentioned, if we're back in front of you in about a month, about what steps need to happen and to make those improvements occur.
Okay.
Yeah, like I just have actually one question for Rockland's representatives to Tri-Town. Like if you could, like I know Tri-Town just hired like its first new like executive director under the revamped system, and like how do you envision his role really in helping us achieve kind of our collective goals in terms of, you know, infrastructure, making sure we, like all three towns, have a voice in this process, I guess.
Well, Tom and I started to work with Paul as well as Dave, and I'll let Tom answer this too, but we have complete confidence from his previous experience with the Cape Cod Commission, in which he dealt with 15 communities in trying to build that dealing with the 3 communities that we have present, he'll do a great job. He has a lot of experience with the legislature as well in order to help us move whatever we need to have done. I think he also has a lot of contacts perhaps with commercial and industrial entities that may want to look, and he can help and work with the master developer on that. He's also an attorney, so he can help us a lot with any legalities that we face. Want to add anything?
So just so everybody knows, Paul Nedwicki is his name. We went through a restructuring phase over the last year and a half since I've been at the SRA. We've gone through and evaluated our current staff, and then we've made changes to our staff model and understood that we needed the need for an executive director. We went through a pretty lengthy process, involved the master developer, the community liaisons, and we went through the process and selected Paul. I think he's going to be an asset to really helping the 3 towns move this project forward. He has extensive experience in grant funding and high-level funding for regional communities, so I see that as a plus for us. his work down the Cape Cod Commission, he understands all the aspects of planning, zoning, conservation especially. So I think with our project, how unique it is, overlapping these three communities, I think it will be a great move forward. So we hope to have you, have a time within the next month. We're just trying to get his feet in the door, but get the selectmen and obviously the leadership of the communities out to meet him and see what his vision is moving forward.
That's awesome. Thank you. No, I don't have any. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm good. Deidre? The house that was purchased with the land at the end of Union Street for open space, you folks had did a land swap from the developer who was originally proposed to 40B. I know that developers opted to take the land inside Union Point and started a project in there. What's the update on that house? I know there was talk before renovating it, opening it to the public, utilizing it for open space needs. Where are we with that, and what's the timeline?
Yeah, so we, as part of, just getting to know the communities better, understood that there was a project at the end of Union Street, abutting our project, that wasn't popular. And so we made arrangements with that developer. We have subsequently swapped the land. So that developer, in lieu of doing a large 40B project, is now going to start in the spring on a project inside of Union Point. And so that subdivision was designed. It took us a little while to design the subdivision and close, but we closed with that developer, I think it was 2 months ago. And so perfected the swap of land. So that now we own that land. That land we are preserving. We've had design team look at the house, analyze the house before we own the land. We weren't in the house. And so it's our intention to preserve that land and also create an opportunity maybe for some sort of environmental center, a natural habitat center, so that it won't be occupied. We've agreed that it's not occupied. It won't be a private residence at any time in the future. It would hopefully be occupied as a community center focused on the environment of the area, the open space, the habitats of animals in the area. We have a team working on how best to utilize that house and to analyze the current state so that we can understand what would a renovation cost and what would the best thing to do to restore that house. I'm not personally directly involved in that, but that has started in earnest the moment we were the owners of the land. And I would expect we'd be making progress moving forward in the spring with some meetings here. That is actually zoned in the responsibility of Rockland. And so any renovations, any changes, any modifications we make, we'd be back in front of your planning board, back in front of your building department, and I would expect those plans to be advancing and conversations to occur later this spring.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned earlier, Matt, you said you've had several new hires and changes over there. Can you provide us with a new organizational chart and update us? Obviously, we believe there's reasons why some of those changes took place, but has the vision of the project changed with those management changes, or?
Well, I mean, the biggest change I think is, the founder of the company now lives here, and he's here in our office every day, which is an amazing commitment on behalf of the company into this project specifically. As you know, we're active in 15 states around the United States. We have 4 other people that do what I do, and so the amount of senior management time that I get from the founder and the partners is outsized to the rest of the company, and so that commitment is significant. All the changes we made are growth, and so we, with the opportunity to do anything, you have to focus on what you do best, both personally and as a company. And so, as you see, the depth of knowledge that Tom has and the process that we're going through and the technical reviews is equaled by the people we've brought on to specifically focus on raising capital. So raising capital for vertical construction is incredibly important for retail, specifically for retail. And then we've started to backfill with some people who aren't old and gray. You're not old. don't have gray hair. And so we've spent a lot of time advancing the next generation of people that are going to help us. So I think, you know, as we were going through the zoning process, the active on-site staff was maybe 3 at the time, including me. And now we're up to 20. And if that doesn't include the partners and consultants we have working every day, I wouldn't be surprised if you included our joint venture partners, the design teams that are actively engaged in the project, and the consultants that I've mentioned, that we're not north of 100, 120 people actively working on, for, and at Union Point every day. And that doesn't include construction. So if we would add all the people working on construction, it would be significantly more than that. So happy to update you. I need updates frequently on how many people we have and what their names are and their mobile phones. So happy to share that with you so that you can be contacting the right resource at the right time. But I'm always available to any of the board members, and as you know, to my good, close friend. Anytime you need, you can call me, and if I don't have the answer, I'll find the right person to give you the answer.
Well, we can appreciate that, and that's why we were hoping for Kyle to be here tonight, but he went amongst the missing. No, actually, I believe he was sick, but that's part of the reason why we're looking for an organizational chart, so we can determine if we did have a need or someone in the community had a question, who we could reach out to. I mean, you folks all have our numbers, you have no problem calling us, but it'd be nice if we had the same and we could go through and say, we have a question for Tom, or Tom has a question, can I get somebody to Tom? It's easier to pick up the phone and say, Tom, here's this person, he's going to call you, versus, you know, going a roundabout way.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem at all. And Kyle sends his regrets. It's a tough cold and flu season. So
we want to see the project succeed. I mean, we're anxious. We've changed the zoning, obviously. Abington follows suit, changed the zone, and I know Weymouth had changed some of their zone to increase residential, which seems to be ongoing, but Abington and Rockland obviously are waiting for some sense of development. And I know, based on your conversation, that's we're awaiting approval and review, and we'll say adjustments with the MEPA process. And then you need to go through and continue with the MWRA as far as negotiations. I would think once you have that, you would have to start some sort of storage plant or a phase plant on site, so that at least you can be ramped up, because people in town are asking us, when will you think we'll see development? And I knew getting into this a few years back that we didn't expect to see anything for a few more years, but those few more years are coming up quickly, and some of us hope to still have hair in those few years, you know? So we're looking more to you to say, okay, we're in an economic boom, according to everyone else in the country, although the market yesterday didn't reflect that. And we're trying to find out, when do you think we'll have a sense? We don't want to miss this opportunity. 10 years ago, everyone thought it was going to be, you know, balloons, and we have them ticket parades, and we'd be, you know, sitting on Easy Street. The project, you know, went into a tailspin. Obviously, legislation changed, and here we are again with a reset. And I know the SRA board has been diligent. They've made a number of changes over there. They've gone through with a new executive director, which, you know, we're all hoping to meet soon. And everyone's got, we'll say we're very optimistic with the project, but we don't want to miss the opportunity. As much as we were, we'll say, disappointed that Amazon chose not to go to Union Point or name Union Point as one of their HQ2 headquarters. I mean, we were hoping that at least it would put some limelight on the project nationally, and it appears it's done that. So I think that's positive. But other people in the community have asked that with the community growing, you know, South Shore Hospital has grown. It looks like they've outgrown their footprint. Have they approached anybody in Union Point about expanding into Union Point for some sort of satellite expansion? Because I know that they've been, we'll say, gobbled up a little bit by some Boston entities, or partnered with Boston hospitals. But there's only so much of a footprint that they have where they are now. So I don't know if they were looking for that. And have any other national developers or anything approached Elstar to either get in, whether it's a joint venture, buy land, or at least bring one of their clients or look for an opportunity in there? And then thirdly, any colleges? I know when we had redone this whole thing, I know these all things tie together with your master plan. You have a new vision.
Absolutely.
But, you know, have we updated that vision since, I mean, when we all met before the zoning change, you had your master plan, we're going down the road this way, but
things, sometimes the road takes a little turns. We want to see if you've turned with the road, or if you made a new road, and would you share that information with the rest of us, please? So.
That was a long question.
I know.
So I'm gonna go front
I'm
to
good at
back.
that.
Yeah, we meet with and talk with South Shore Hospital all the time. We think the changes they've made and the CEO are fantastic. We, want to find the opportunity for medical office expansion. I think the South Shore is an area where the kind of Boston hospital-based hub and spoke solution has not been solved for most of the South Shore, and I think that was held up by the acquisition that ultimately didn't go through. And so, we have spoke with many of the Boston-based hospitals, and it's our expectation there'll be a large medical office campus on site. One of the expansions of adding people to our team was a very more accomplished person that added to our team, Jerry Kavanaugh, who I don't reflect him in the same way we've added other staff. He's, joined the team, joined L-Star as a partner, so at a higher level than anyone else who's joined the team. And, he's focused on what we believe is a need as well, not because we believe it, but because we've been approached prior to Jerry joining the team by 5 regional Massachusetts and Boston-based colleges who wanted a South Shore campus. We couldn't satisfy them with our master plan. Each one of them had a vision of a 50,000 square foot single-story building with some surface parking, and that really wasn't our vision for the project. Fortunately, Jerry joined the team, and he's been instrumental in us revisioning the opportunity to build a building on behalf of multiple colleges and deliver to them a floor piece, so a college could get a 30,000 square foot floor plate, and the balance of that space that they need would be shared with other universities. We've had great traction with the universities doing that. Beyond that, and more importantly, I think, we have an international partner who's done this outside of the United States and inside of the United States, so it's not a model that we have to create on our own. We're delivering a lot of different real estate asset classes, and they each have their own challenges. They each have their own specific issues that you need to be well versed in to deliver them properly. And so by identifying that partner, we've really made great progress in delivering what we believe is going to be South Shore campuses for many universities, which I think would be transformative for the area, but also transformative for us, because really any culture of startups or innovation or businesses desire access to higher education. They desire access to higher education for the employee pipeline. They also desire access to higher education for the professors that come and can help experiment and learn. And so delivering that would be critically important to us. As we've shared previously, we have several national partners that have come on board. The leases that we are underwriting for many of the corporate clients that we have are partnering with a firm named Patronelli. That firm manages an $800 million Class A office space fund for USA, the real estate arm of USAA, $1 trillion insurance company. So that level of depth of access to capital and experience transforms our ability to deliver that one asset class. And so we have partners in hotels, we have partners in medical office buildings, we have partners for delivering a university campus, and we've added partners for research and R&D. And I am actively working with 2 partners to deliver firms that have delivered innovation space. And so, when we talk about having a staff of 20 people, that 20 people is mostly focused on delivering the work that we have to deliver on site. We have another group of people that represent each individual firm. Patronelli has 5 people assigned to this project. They have 2 architects working on designs to perfect lease negotiations for us right now. That's not included in what we would consider staff for the project. So it's our goal to leverage as many of those firms as possible. We would love to have some Boston-based firms really focused on it for reasons that probably have to do with the strength of the core market. They're based really and focused on the city center, right, and Cambridge, and some of the areas like Somerville that have experienced some significant growth, Watertown and Waltham. So, but national and international firms have seen this as an opportunity to get into the Boston market and leveraging their experience and national presence and corporate clients. We've had great success advancing that. So did I miss a question along the way? I think I probably did.
No, I think you covered the schools, we covered the hospital, you covered the national people. And I know that a union pension fund made a significant investment as well in the project. And does that mean that some of that work will end up being union to support them? And does that mean that there might be opportunities for residents in 3 communities to maybe participate in that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an enormous investment in infrastructure that has to be made. And so, we've spent a lot of time raising capital, and pension funds are what we would call patient money. They tend to, invest for the long term, which is different than previous Wall Street firms have looked at the project. And so, we are committed to building with unions, building, with union workforces. We converted the whole model of the project through the zoning process to enhance and increase that. We came on board and immediately reaffirmed the obligations under the project labor agreement and changed the name of the project. We changed the obligations from what would have been, a 4,000 unit subdivision built predominantly open shop to with a small 900,000 square foot commercial space that would have been built union to 10 million square feet. That's a substantial difference in job opportunities. That's a substantial difference in construction jobs. That's a substantial difference in permanent jobs. And so that's a heavier lift. I think we all knew that when we signed up for the zoning. The residential was never going to be a challenge. The residential would draw a certain amount of retail, and there would always be the opportunity to do some commercial. We turned down the wrong commercial opportunities. We could have. I'd be happy to share and some potentially confidential opportunities. We have turned down warehouse distribution. We have turned down large tracts of land taken by commercial developers that don't generate any permanent jobs, or very few, under the complete belief that we can create a different model here. That if we deliver the residential and we deliver the amenities and we deliver the retail, that this is the most viable place for large corporate clients to come and relocate. We've spent a tremendous amount of time working in downtown Boston and mining data to understand whose leases are coming up, right? So if you signed a lease in Boston and it was a 15-year term with a 5-year option, you're 15 or 20 years in, then your landlord has some good news for you. It's time to renew your lease. And your lease is going to go up significantly. And those firms are with workforces on the South Shore, tremendous amount of people work here, highly talented workforce, senior executives who live on the South Shore are really interested in having a campus where we're located and continue to have that Boston address with a downsized Boston presence. And so we spend a tremendous amount of time focused on that. We're delivering a lot of residential product. We're delivering a lot of amenities, and next we'll deliver retail. And we're confident with that mix, the commercial will follow. And we are more anxious than anyone on the board. I can speak for the partners, for myself and for everyone on our team, to not miss this cycle. And so we're focused on it every day. We have an enormous amount of resources that we put to work every day, and we're confident in our ability to deliver the mix that will make this the transformative project that we promised when you changed the zoning a year and a half ago.
How about the status of the balance of the cleanup from the Navy and the final transfer of remaining parcels of land?
That actually should have been one of the progress points. I'm glad you brought it up. When we came on board, the relationship between the federal agencies, the Navy, and the developer was almost in a "don't transfer us any more land, thank you, we don't want it" mode. And so spearheaded by one of our founding partners and by bringing on some very qualified consultants, we're made significant progress in transferring land, and we'll be transferring, have set up a model for how we would transfer the balance of the land. And so we are probably 95% cleaned on the site. The last 5% of the land is very important to us, and a big chunk of that gets transferred in the next quarter. And with the help of the SRA board, we've really been advancing the discussions with the Navy to ensure that that happens. Part of that was an agreement for us to take on a certain amount of risk on our own to bring some of that land on board early for us to do and promote the cleanup. And that cleanup will happen quickly. To follow up on other progress points, a lot of the old buildings have been torn down, right? And so when you drive around the site, there's a lot of the buildings are gone. A lot more to come, but there's probably a clean slate. We talk about it being a clean slate. Later this year, it will be a clean slate, and that, to a great extent, has been the partnership with the SRA, the Navy, the EPA, the DEP, and our forces to really advance completion of the cleanup, as well as advance demolition of the old buildings. And once we have those, people should be able to see the vision of the project more clearly. We're going to start roads, we'll map parcels, and you'll be able to come. We take tours for people. We do tours with prospects. We drive them to places. We have the immersive VR, so you put on some Google Glass or goggles and you can see the future. And so that's part of our tour for every commercial client. We're going to start making that available by marking sites. The current sites we have mapped out that way. We don't advise or recommend the public come to them quite yet, but when the demolition's done and the roads are built, there'll be a lot of places that people could come, and with your own iPad or iPhone or smartphone or Google Glass, you could go stand there and see the future. And that we want to make available to people as soon as the roads are in, as soon as it's safe for people to go to those locations.
Restaurants, I know a lot of people have asked, when will the restaurants come over there? And I know that someone previously asked about the commercial on the existing buildings that are over there now, but it's hard to believe that nobody's utilized any of the liquor licenses that are available over there, and or at least possibly, set up a restaurant. I mean, a lot of restaurants seem to be trending back towards either going into retail environments or places where there's lots of people. And it just seems, I don't know, maybe odd to me that there hasn't been at least a restaurant, at least considered or mentioned. It just seems that we want to have people go over there. We want people to have the ability to take a short hop over there and go out to eat. Things have more choices, but nothing seems to have, we'll say, borne any fruit over there yet as far as restaurants. And then another question I had was, there was some talk about the MBTA when this Amazon thing was going on about expanding that service or increasing the service. Is that still going to happen with or without this, without Amazon now? Any possibility of that still being something that would get us into downtown Boston and back from the T-stop that's over there now?
Sure. So restaurants, by delivering the sports complex, we created an environment and a location that has enough traffic, enough people, weekly and daily, to deliver a restaurant. We have a brand name restaurateur who's partnered with us through the design of a restaurant. The restaurant design is 60% complete, 80% complete? 100% complete, sorry. I'm a little behind. And so we have a fully designed restaurant, fully priced out for construction. It is nestled into the rec complex. It was designed as a part of the rec complex. Its goal is to serve the function that you would normally see, all right? Parents with kids forget the water, whatever they do, and they go need to get a burger, right? That's out the back. Out the front is really more of a pub, so a gastro pub, so that you can go in and watch sports. It's meant to be the neighborhood pub of all the residential that's being delivered around it. We had the chance to preview for a work group of the SRA a couple of the neighborhoods that are coming into the area as part of our process of just kind of making sure, as we appear with site plan, we don't appear and surprise anyone. We want to make sure as we're designing, we're working with our partners to better understand how best to deliver what's right for the neighborhood and what's right for the project. And so that is meant to be the neighborhood restaurant. That'll likely be the first one we build. It'll be a freestanding restaurant. The challenge with the balance of the restaurants, and we've had enormous interest in delivering restaurants on site through our retail leads and the people who lead our retail department, is we have to deliver the buildings. This is inline retail. And so by inline retail, I mean, you go to Newbury Street, right? All the restaurants are in the ground floor. There's something built above it, right? You go walk Post Office Square, walk around Copley, right? It's not that there isn't interest in restaurants. We have to build the buildings, and we can't build the restaurant first, right? This isn't that cartoon with the little jailhouse that building gets built around. You have to build the buildings. These buildings will be designed. There's 8 architects working actively on the design of buildings. Those buildings will take anywhere from 18 months to 20 to 22 months to build. And the moment they're open, that ground floor retail will be fit out.
We're getting hungry, man.
I'm there every day, Ed. I got to pack a brown bag. You know I want a restaurant. So the first restaurant is we want to break ground on the spring, and it's a brand name Boston restaurateur that'll deliver the first one. It will be one of our only freestanding restaurants outside of the lakefront entertainment district, and the balance of the restaurant interest we're having are leasing spaces in the anticipation of buildings being delivered so they can be at the ground floor with residents above them.
The T?
Yeah, the T is an ongoing conversation. We think Governor Baker's administration and Secretary Pollack have been fantastic to work with. We have a group of people focused on through transportation solutions, ways that we could work with the MBTA to improve service to the commuter rail that's on site, from renaming it Union Point to increasing cars to enclosing it so that it's a place that if the train's running a little late, you can be there to open a coffee shop in it. And so all those discussions are ongoing. They take a little bit longer than some of our other discussions because when you own the land, you can go straight to building permit. But in those discussions, we are hopeful and believe that as the project grows, the opportunity to improve our access to Boston as we sell to businesses based in Boston, that they're going to split their campus, which is really this concept that we didn't even come up with it. I think Secretary Ash was the one who said maybe we want to consider that, and we immediately ran with it because it was a wonderful idea. So that they can have the opportunity to have an office in Boston and 20 minutes later be in an office at Union Point and go back again. And there isn't the shorter that back and forth is, the less likely those businesses, go to Waltham or go to Watertown or go anywhere else. Nobody can offer that kind of direct and immediate access to South Station the way that we can.
When I met with Kyle last week, you mentioned that come spring, there should be numerous projects that are going to be, we'll say, publicized, and applying for permits and things like that. Has any of that information been shared with the SRA yet so they can get in front of it or at least start to get phased in with what might be coming so they understand so they don't get, we'll say, volumes of permit applications, Is there a way that they can get some of that information as the leases are signed or so they know who's coming?
Yeah, the who, probably not. That we don't share. The formal announcements, we don't share until the tenants and buyers choose. We don't choose that for them. They choose that for us. A lot of times those get announced when the formal submission is made. But in regard to the SRA, we meet with the SRA and the SRA staff and a work group to advise them as to what is coming so that there can be a preview of the building design, sometimes involving the architect, sometimes involving the actual developer, so that as we get to a site plan application, we believe we've had a preview opportunity. Those meetings happen at a minimum once a month, but they happen as routinely as we can. And with the new executive director, it's my expectation those meetings are going to happen daily, which has been something we've been searching for, and we have now. I can tell you that I've met more with the executive director since he started yesterday than I have else. The board has been fantastic about meeting with me, but I think they all would be happy to meet less and let me meet with the executive director more. And so, yes, we spend a lot of time trying to preview what's coming down the pike, so nobody's surprised when it arrives.
Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity. Happy to
appreciate
come
it.
back in anytime and come down to the site. If you haven't been by recently, to anybody, residents of Rockland, anyone on the board or staff, come by and say hello and drive by. I think you'll be impressed with the progress since the last time you drove through.
Have to bring a chair next time, you know?
I brought Tom's. I thought I'd speak half.
I might have to bring one of those other 20 guys next time.
Half women, half men. So
Okay.
we'll bring them all.
Employees, excuse me.
We'll fill the room next time you invite us.
Thank you. Next up, we have the town administrators.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Comments?
one item to discuss with you that was not in your book. As we've continued to look at the Park Street fire site, we became aware yesterday that DEP is looking to possibly tarping the site soon, and in talking with Fire Chief Duffy and DEP, Mass Development, etc., we still would like the opportunity to go on site, dig a couple of holes in very specific areas that were identified by the fire chief during the fire itself, and those most likely to yield the knowledge that we need so that we can make a determination as to what is the degree of contamination on the Park Street fire site. So I'd like to ask the board to declare a continuing emergency so we can get on site before the top is on this month, dig a couple of test pits, and then get those test results. We need that in order to make a strategic decision going forward as to whether or not we want to take the land for taxes. It might require at some point Rockland putting some skin in the game, or maybe we can make a determination. This is what the cost, in all probability, would be the range for cleanup, so that if we did take the land and wanted to go forward with an RFP, we'd have some knowledge, or at least more knowledge, of what level of contamination is probably on site. We might end up taking it and having to work a deal at some point with a developer through an RFP that we're not actually going to charge them the land if they do this development. It is in the revitalization of Rockland in the 40R district, but we cannot make an educated guess. Right now, we're still a little blind as to what's there, and we wanted to declare the emergency, which would give us the ability to go on, test the site, and make a much more educated guess. We've talked with DEP, we've talked with Mass Development, we've talked with tax title attorney, and we've even talked with the attorney that's been advising us on some of the environmental issues. The best thing we can do now is to proceed, and we'll also gain the knowledge that may alleviate the neighbors' fears as to what's on site, or maybe we then have to talk to the congressman about getting a much more national approach. We're not exactly sure, but I'm asking the board to allow us to declare the emergency. Town accountant says with an emergency declared by the board, the ongoing emergency, then we can get the testing done. My guess is somewhere between 15, 16,000, no more than 25,000, and we would then have a reasonable clue as to what the site's going to need and what our next steps should be. So, thank you.
Second.
Before we vote, I just want to say, I think
moving forward with testing is paramount, so at least we can alleviate any unknowns for the neighbors surrounding it. So, I mean, that would be the premise of doing it, and we would, I think at that point, once we have the test results, we can decide which courses of action to take after that. But we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor? It's a unanimous vote. Thank
I
you.
can say we've got very good results out of the Estes site, and we really believe that later on, and I think we had someone here. So Estes, after 30 years, it looks like, I'm not sure the exact date, it's been no change there in ages since I've been here, and I'd be thrilled to see that removed. And by taking this action, I know you've already had the vote, I'm hoping that Rockland avoids the 30-year blight down on Park Street. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions
Expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen. Now, the opinions and comments of only the individual member. With that, Ms. Hall?
Sure. February 16th, Teen Center is having a dance. We're looking for volunteers. Please contact them. They are on social media, or you can contact Jean Blaney at the Youth Commission to volunteer for that event. Tomorrow night is the Reimagine Rockland Infrastructure Subcommittee meeting, 7:30 here. We'll be talking parking, so anyone interested in downtown redevelopment and parking, please attend tomorrow night, 7:30 here. That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Laughlin?
A couple of things tonight. First off, on April 8th, I believe, the town elections, last week, the papers went out for seats. There are 16 open seats in this election, and currently, I believe there's only one position that's opposed. You know, people talk all the time about wanting to be involved. Here's a great opportunity. I posted the open positions on the internet last week, but I can share it again. There's, like I said, 16 open positions between school committee, you know, town collector, treasurer, clerk, selectmen, board of assessors. So if you're looking to get involved, go to the town clerk's office and pull papers for the election. And second, I just want to offer my condolences to Ted and Christine Santos. They lost their daughter last night, Jessica. She was a graduate of the class of 1998. I grew up with her, and she's just another one gone too soon because of this, you know, recent epidemic, this crisis. And at some point, you know, maybe you know, we'll find a solution for it. But Jessica was a vibrant personality with a great laugh and a great spirit, and just another one just gone too soon. So just condolences to her and her family.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I'd like to take just a minute out to speak about Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, the former selectman here, just him and his wife Michelle and the kids just lost her father a few days ago, and then very shortly after that, Mike Johnson's sister Lisa Walsh passed away. So to Mike and his family, you're in our thoughts and prayers, and don't be afraid to stop and see us. Occasionally, we're still here. On a good note for the Johnsons, and also Stacy Callahan, who's our human resources person, the Rockland High School hockey team, the champs in their division, I guess, and they'll be going on to the playoffs, and they're doing very well for themselves. And for the family of Ron Everett, Officer Everett, talking to some of the other police officers in the last couple of days, all had nice things to say about him, and he'll be missed. Passed way too soon. And with that, I'm done.
Mr. Mullen?
While we're on the unfortunate note of condolences, I want to extend condolences out to Mr. Frank Cahill, who passed away about a week and a half ago due to a very tragic accident in town. And Mr. Cahill was, he was just like a legend. He is at Holy Family. His family has always been involved in town. His daughters are just amazing, and his son Jimbo is also a legend in Rockland, and he's just, it's a family that really is all about what our town is all about, and I'll send my thoughts to the Cahills. Next week, I believe Tuesday morning, the Rockland Chamber is hosting its annual breakfast Tuesday at 7:45 a.m. At the Doubletree Hilton, and I think we'll hear like an update from Union Point, similar to what they provided this evening. Maybe not as much, maybe not with as many questions, hopefully, from Mr. Kimball, but it should be a helpful and informative opportunity to again get the word out for Union Point, where they are, where they're going, like and how they're moving forward, but also for Rockland too. We, Rockland will have an opportunity to showcase both to people within Rockland and outside Rockland exactly what we're up to, what we're doing. Like Upper Baby that just opened on Weymouth Street, their CEO will also be attending and talking about his company and hopefully why he came to Rockland. And so there is a lot of progress. Like a lot of times, progress doesn't happen overnight, but like it's being made, and hopefully the strong foundations now are being put in place so that in years to come we can succeed. We can have a community that remains affordable, but is also on the move, and I can hopefully have the revenues to be able to do everything we want to do in terms of everything, all of our needs. And but I think we're getting there. I think we're already at a very good place, and I think we're moving to an even better place. So that's all I have, Mr. Kimball.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to express my condolences to the Patriots. I know it was a tough game, but our expectations here in New England are extremely high. We've been very fortunate that we've played at a high level, whether it's football or basketball or hockey or baseball. We've been very fortunate, and I'd like to thank the people from Union Point for coming in tonight. Again, we have high expectations for that project, and we want to keep full court press on them as well. We want to make sure that things happen in a timely manner because, as Mr. Mullen had mentioned, there's been lots of things planted that hopefully will pay off for the future of the town, whether that's revenue that's coming in so we can support, fire department or a school or police or any of those things that are, the taxpayers are going to be facing in the very near future. Which brings us up to another item. There's been some talk about recreational marijuana. At the next meeting, we've been meeting with the town's attorney, but at the next meeting, he's going to present some, hopefully draft bylaws for us to take a look at so we can go through and see how we can integrate recreational marijuana in the town in a manner that'll be safe for not only the people who voted for it, but the people who didn't vote for it. Although the majority in our town did vote to authorize it. So we want to make sure we're looking at that because those are going to be things of the future that is going to bring some revenue to town, whether you're pro or con. It's going to be something that we could possibly be utilized for other programs, capital improvements, things like that throughout the town without having to go back to the taxpayers. Been in discussions with School Committee Chairman Dan Biggins. We're still working on, I know we're trying to get a joint meeting together, but we're still trying to work out and resolve some budget issues and how we move forward with a new financial plan based on an old formula that's, we'll say, an unwritten formula that's in place. So we're still working on that. We still have some questions for one another, but we're working through it and hope to have a resolution early March for the board. So
hopefully that'll happen and get that out there. And for those of you who were coming tonight for the cell tower zoning meeting, that's been postponed. The applicant, I'm told, was reviewing some of the RF data that the consultant from the Rockland side had presented to them, as well as possibly looking at some alternative sites that were presented to them as well. So the postponement, I think, was at the request of the applicant to give them some more time to review and then come up with hopefully a different strategy that'll be that'll work out for the residents over there. We'll see what happens. Tonight we have an executive session for.
Chairman, if I can, the only, and my fault, and it's minor, it's a subtle nuance, but it's not for class action litigation, it's for mass tort education, litigation, possibility.
Okay.
Boy.
There you go.
So we have an executive session scheduled tonight for union contract negotiations and for a mass tort, possible litigation of class action. So
Make that motion. Actually, no, is it just a roll call, or do you need a motion first?
We need a motion to move
I
into
make a
executive
motion.
session,
To adjourn into executive session,
not to reconvene.
not to reconvene. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'm new.
It's all right, I'm old. That than plenty of times.
A second.
okay, all those in favor, and it's going to be a voice vote.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
And
Yes.
thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you after the, actually, we'll see you after the holiday, I believe. So enjoy the Patriots President's Weekend holiday. Thank you.